There's a lot going on in Virginia today. The recent gun control legislation proposed by the Democrats for the 2020 season and led by Ralph Northam has got a lot of people up in arms, concerned that their rights will be taken away soon. But what does the Virginia Constitution have to say regarding these matters? That's what we're going to look at in today's video. A real quick note on perspective. I am not a lawyer nor a legal scholar, so it's a good thing that the Virginia Constitution was written with language that's easy to understand. This is not legal advice, but it is an open discussion, so I encourage you to make a comment below. Also, I hope it piques your interest in the Virginia Constitution. That'd be great. There are 17 sections in Article 1 of Virginia's Constitution. This constitutes our Bill of Rights. Today, we will just focus on a few of those sections. More importantly, we're going to look for two key words, shall and ought. Shall is issued generally as a mandatory statement, a direction, such as something that must be done. Ought, however, seems to have two separate meanings. Generally, ought is understood to be a direction, a stern suggestion. And in some cases, ought is mandatory, such as must. But I think it's interesting the choice of language which is used more often than not with the term ought with regard to Virginia's Constitution. Here, in the Bill of Rights, ought seems to imply that sometimes mandatory isn't necessary, and sometimes things should be done even in the event that they aren't being done. When using the word ought in this way, it allows the framers of our Constitution to recognize that men will not always follow the rules, and that sometimes things will need to be done that are not generally allowed. So the use of ought seems to permit this. So let's move right into the Bill of Rights. Section 1. Equality and the rights of men. This is where we get the idea of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that all men are created equal. However, something very important takes place here. Right about the halfway point, speaking of man, humans, us, says that we cannot, by any compact, deprive or divest our posterity, namely the enjoyment of life, liberty, with the means of acquiring and possessing property, and pursuing and obtaining happiness and safety. Our posterity are our children, our inheritance that goes through. Divest means to give away. And it says that we cannot give away the rights, the property, the future of our children for anything. We're not allowed to do that. It's our right, given to us by God, to pursue life, liberty, and happiness, and our duty to protect the same for future generations. Section 2 affirms that the people are the source of power, and that all power is vested in and consequently derived from the people, and that the magistrates and trustees and servants should make themselves amenable at all times. This means they should listen, be agreeable, try to compromise, and avail themselves to the people. Section 3 affirms that the government should be instituted for the common benefit. This is the first time we see the word ought used, and here the framers use the word ought recognizing that the common good the government should cause may not always take place. There's another interesting word here used called weal. The public weal is the common good. The purpose of Section 3 is quite clear. It says that the people have the right to reform, alter, or abolish in any way that is good to the public weal, the government, when it is acting in a way that is repugnant to the people. That is why the term ought is used in the beginning. It's because the framers recognized that the government may not always operate as it should. So, Section 3 reminds the government that it is the will of the people and the power of the people that allows it to govern. Now, the strength of force used in Section 3 to remind the government where the power lies is toned down a bit in Section 7. Here, this section reminds the people that laws should not be suspended. We also see another use of the word ought. Section 7 recognizes that laws should not be suspended, yet the use of the word ought recognizes that there may be times when this is necessary. Think about Second Amendment constitutional cities or sanctuary cities. As this is a manifestation of the people's will, and the lowest element or smallest element of our government is the county level, this section authorizes the county to not follow state laws when they are injurious to the people. Section 12 guarantees a right of speech, freedom of the press, the right to peaceably assemble and to petition. The framers of our Constitution went so far as to chastise any future generation that would try to enforce restrictions on this right, saying that only a despotic government would do such a thing. and mandating that the General Assembly shall not pass any law abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, nor the right of the people to peaceably assemble, and the right to petition the government for redress of grievances. So, this beautiful thing, this Bill of Rights for the people, the one that ensures that the government does not overstep its bounds, how can this be upheld? It's through the militia. Section 13 describes our standing army's militia and maintains that they are subordinate to the civil power. Section 44.1 of the Virginia Code describes the militia. There are 3 different categories: the organized militia, the National Guard and the Virginia Defense Force, and the unorganized militia. Of the unorganized militia, all able-bodied people, 16 to 55, are members. The difference between the Constitution and the Code is simple. The Constitution creates the law for which the Code defines. Our forefathers were so concerned about defining what a good government is that they outlined the qualities necessary for the preservation of a free government with Section 15. The words they speak define a presence of mind within the body of the people that the government should follow, one of justice, moderation, temperance, fragility, and virtue, and that recognition that all citizens have duties as well as rights, and that such rights cannot be enjoyed in a society which is not free. Therefore, it is the duty of you, the citizen, to uphold those rights when required. And there's a final warning to the government, specifically that the rights contained within the Bill of Rights shall not be constrained to limit other rights of the people, even if those rights aren't explicitly expressed. And that's where most Virginians get the Constitution wrong. It's not about rights that you have. It's about restrictions of the government to invade, take, or otherwise prohibit you from expressing your rights. Although it seems a simple fix, it's not that easy. We have hundreds of years of law and case law to fall back on. These are where the codes are written, and unfortunately, we've been asleep. For many times, things have been passed which didn't seem so important until now. So going back to fix them requires an effort in law. It does not necessarily require an effort in force. But the Constitution does provide that remedy to the people if needed. These are not the only instances of the word ought in the Virginia Constitution, but they were the ones that I thought would make this case most brief and broad. In every instance, ought is used to check the government and remind it of the people's power, and the duty the people have to retain their rights in case the government tries to usurp them. Tazewell County, Virginia, recently voted on 2 resolutions. One was to support and uphold the Constitution, specifically the Second Amendment. The second was to form a militia. Section 13 of the Virginia Constitution tells them to form a militia to protect our rights. Section 3 tells them to change the government when they won't listen. Section 7 tells them not to obey laws that are repugnant to the Constitution. Section 15 tells them how to spot a bad government, one that's repressive and needs changing. Section 2 tells them to do it because the power was within the people, and Section 1 tells them why to do it. Because all men are created equal, and all men have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's easy for things to become misconstrued these day and age. There's lots going on, and a lot to be confused about. I hope this video helped, and I'd like to hear your thoughts below. I'd really like to know what you think about Tazewell's militia. Do you have a militia in your area? Has your city or county considered the idea? Please sound off in the comments below. I'm Robert Ham for Virginia Second Amendment News, reporting on your rights. Thank you for watching.